Welcome to United Daily Updates, your most trusted source for Manchester United news. Hello everyone and welcome back to United Daily Updates, your number one destination for all things Manchester United. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we bring you the latest news, transfer updates, match analysis, and everything else related to the Red Devils. We work hard every single day to bring you accurate and timely information that you can trust. Now let's dive into today's big story. Introduction. The Semenyo saga takes another turn. Transfer windows are always exciting times for Manchester United fans. Every rumour, every report, every little piece of information gets us thinking about how our team could improve. Over the past few weeks, one name has been popping up repeatedly in connection with a move to Old Trafford. That name is Antoine Semenyo, the talented Bournemouth winger who has been lighting up the Premier League with his performances. Just when it seemed like United were ready to make their move for the Ghanaian international, transfer expert Fabrizio Romano has dropped some news that might disappoint many fans. According to Romano, Manchester United are not currently in active talks to sign Semenyo in the January transfer window. But why is that? What does this mean for United's transfer plans? And should we be worried about losing out on a player that our manager clearly admires? In this detailed blog post, we are going to break down everything you need to know about the Antoine Semenyo situation. We will look at why United were interested in him in the first place, what Romano has said about the current state of negotiations, why the club has shifted their priority to midfield, and what this could mean for the team going forward. We will also discuss the risks of not signing Semenyo and whether United might regret this decision later. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's get into all the details. Understanding the background. Why United want Semenyo. Before we talk about the latest update from Fabrizio Romano, we need to understand why Manchester United are interested in Antoine Semenyo in the first place. What makes this player so special? Why do United see him as someone who could improve the team? The left wing problem at Manchester United. If you have been watching Manchester United this season, you know that the left wing position has been a massive problem. The team just does not have a natural left winger who can provide the same kind of threat that Amad Diallo provides on the right side. This imbalance has made United predictable in attack and easier to defend against. Ruben Amorim, the new Manchester United manager, has been trying different solutions to fix this problem. He signed Patrick Dorgu, a young player with lots of potential, but Dorgu is still very raw and needs time to develop. Instead of giving him that time and support, Amorim has publicly criticized the young player, which is not ideal for his confidence and development. Against Crystal Palace, Amorim decided to start Diogo Dalot on the left side instead of Dorgu. Dalot is a good player and he had a decent game, even reaching a personal milestone during the match. But let's be honest here. Dalot is not the long-term answer to United's left-wing problems. He is a right-back by trade, and while he can do a job on the left, he does not provide the attacking threat that United need from that position. What United really need is someone like Amad Diallo but on the opposite side. They need a player who can take on defenders, create chances, score goals, and stretch the opposition defense. That is exactly what Antoine Semenyo could provide. Who is Antoine Semenyo? For those who might not be familiar with Antoine Semenyo, let me give you a quick introduction. Semenyo is a 24-year-old winger who currently plays for Bournemouth. He was born in England but represents Ghana at international level. He joined Bournemouth from Bristol City in January 2023 and has been impressive ever since. What makes Semenyo special is his versatility and his directness. He is not just a one-position player. He can play on the left wing, on the right wing, as a second striker, or even as a central forward if needed. This kind of versatility is gold for any manager, especially someone like Amorim who likes to change formations and tactics depending on the opponent. Semenyo is strong, fast, and very good at running at defenders. He has that ability to beat a man one-on-one, which is something United have been missing badly. When he gets the ball, defenders have to worry because they know he can go past them and create danger. He is also a hard worker who tracks back and helps his team defensively, which fits perfectly with what Amorim demands from his players. This season, Semenyo has been one of Bournemouth's best players. He has scored important goals and created chances for his teammates. His performances have caught the attention of several big clubs, including Manchester United, Manchester City, and Liverpool. That tells you everything you need to know about his quality. Amorim's previous interest. Here is an interesting fact that shows just how much Ruben Amorim rates Antoine Semenyo. According to reports, Amorim actually tried to sign Semenyo when he was still the manager of Sporting CP in Portugal. He wanted to bring the Ghanaian winger to Lisbon during the summer transfer window, but the move did not happen. Now that Amorim is at Manchester United, it makes perfect sense that Semenyo's name has come up again. Managers usually have a list of players they really like and trust, and they often try to bring those players to their new clubs. Amorim clearly believes that Semenyo has the qualities to succeed at the highest level and that he would be a great fit for Manchester United. The fact that Amorim wanted him at Sporting and still wants him at United tells us that this is not just a random target that the club's recruitment team has suggested. This is a player that the manager personally believes in and wants to work with. That makes the interest much more significant. The perfect January recruit? Recent reports from the People's Person suggested that Manchester United had identified Antoine Semenyo as the perfect January recruit. According to those reports, United had even made contact with Semenyo's agents to discuss a potential move. This news got many United fans excited because it seemed like the club was finally going to address the left-wing problem. The timing seemed right as well. January is just around the corner, United need reinforcements, and Semenyo is available for a reasonable price. Everything pointed towards United making a serious push to sign him during the winter transfer window. But then Fabrizio Romano came in with an update that changed the whole picture. The Romano update. What did he actually say? Now let's get to the main news that has got everyone talking. Fabrizio Romano, who is considered one of the most reliable transfer journalists in the world, has provided an update on Manchester United's interest in Antoine Semenyo. And the news is not what United fans wanted to hear. Not in active talks. Romano stated very clearly on his YouTube channel that Manchester United are not currently in active talks for Antoine Semenyo. Notice the key words here, not in active talks. This does not mean United have no interest in the player. It does not mean they will never try to sign him. But it does mean that right now, at this moment, there are no serious negotiations happening between United and Bournemouth for Semenyo's transfer. This is important to understand because in the transfer world, there is a big difference between being interested in a player and actually being in talks to sign that player. Lots of clubs are interested in lots of players, but interest alone does not lead to transfers. What matters is whether the club is willing to put that interest into action by opening negotiations and making an offer. According to Romano, United are not at that stage with Semenyo yet. They like the player, they admire his qualities, and Amorim definitely wants him, but the club is not actively pursuing the transfer right now. The reason? Different priorities. Romano did not just tell us that United are not in talks for Semenyo. He also explained why. According to the Italian journalist, INEOS, the company that now controls football operations at Manchester United, has plans to strengthen in midfield instead of out wide in the winter transfer window. This is the key part of the whole story. United have decided that their biggest priority in January is to sign a midfielder, not a winger. They believe that fixing the midfield is more important than addressing the problems on the left wing. All the big money that United plan to spend in January will go towards bringing in a new midfielder, not Antoine Semenyo. Romano explained it clearly. He said that United like Semenyo and Amorim definitely rates him highly, but the priority target at this moment is in a different position. In other words, Semenyo might still be on United's radar for the future, but he is not the main target for the January transfer window. What this means for United fans. For Manchester United fans who are hoping to see Semenyo in a red shirt soon, this news is definitely disappointing. The left wing has been a problem all season, and it seemed like the club had finally identified the right player to fix that problem. Now we are being told that United are going to focus on midfield instead. This raises several questions. Is the club making the right decision? Should they be prioritizing midfield over the wing? What if other clubs come in and sign Semenyo while United are busy looking at midfielders? We will explore all these questions in detail as we go through this blog post. Why United are prioritizing midfield? Does it make sense? So United have decided that midfield is a bigger priority than signing a winger. Let's talk about whether this decision actually makes sense when you look at the current state of the squad. The midfield problems at Manchester United. To be fair to INEOS and the recruitment team, Manchester United do have some serious problems in midfield. If you look at the options available to Ruben Amorim in that area of the pitch, you can see why they might want to bring in reinforcements. Let's go through the midfield options one by one and see what the issues are. Casemiro, the aging star. Casemiro was once one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. He won 5 Champions League titles with Real Madrid and was a key part of one of the greatest club teams ever assembled. When United signed him in the summer of 2022, fans were excited to finally have a proper defensive midfielder who could protect the defense and control the middle of the park. But the harsh reality is that Casemiro is not the same player he was a few years ago. He is now 32 years old, and the physical decline is obvious. He does not cover the ground as quickly as he used to. He gets caught out of position more often. And most tellingly, he cannot play 90 minutes on a regular basis anymore. The article mentions that Casemiro has only lasted the full 90 minutes once this season. Think about that for a second. A player who is supposed to be one of your key midfielders can only complete a full match once in an entire season so far. That is a huge problem. You cannot build a team around a player who needs to be substituted in almost every game because he runs out of steam. Casemiro is still a good player on his day, and his experience is valuable, but he cannot be relied upon to start every game or play the full match. United need someone younger and fitter who can handle the physical demands of playing in midfield for a full season. Bruno Fernandes, playing out of position. Bruno Fernandes is Manchester United's captain and one of the most talented players in the squad. He has creativity, vision, passing ability, and a great eye for goal. But here is the problem. Bruno is being asked to play in a deeper midfield role when his best position is much further forward. Bruno is at his best when he is playing as an attacking midfielder or as a number 10. That is where he can use his creativity to unlock defenses, play killer passes, and get into goal-scoring positions. When you ask him to play deeper and focus more on controlling the game and protecting the defense, you are not getting the best out of him. The article points out that Bruno Fernandes is much better suited to playing in a more advanced role. This is absolutely true. United need a proper central midfielder who can play alongside or behind Bruno, allowing him to push forward and do what he does best. Right now, Bruno is being forced to do too much defensive work, which limits his impact in the attacking third. Manuel Ugarte, the disappointment. Manchester United signed Manuel Ugarte from Paris Saint-Germain in the summer, and many fans were excited about this transfer. Ugarte had a good reputation as a young defensive midfielder with lots of energy and good tackling ability. The hope was that he would solve United's midfield problems and form a strong partnership with other midfielders. Unfortunately, things have not worked out as planned. The article mentions that Manuel Ugarte's form has been dreadful. That is a strong word, but it reflects how disappointing he has been since joining United. He has not shown the quality that people expected. His positioning has been questionable, his passing has been inconsistent, and he has not provided the defensive stability that United desperately need. When a new signing does not perform well, it creates a big problem. United spent good money on Ugarte, and they were counting on him to be a key player. Now it looks like he might not be the answer, which means United need to look elsewhere for midfield reinforcements. Kobbie Mainoo, falling out of favour. Kobbie Mainoo was one of the bright spots of last season for Manchester United. The young midfielder burst onto the scene and showed incredible maturity and quality for someone so young. He played with confidence, showed good technical ability, and seemed to have a bright future at the club. But under Ruben Amorim, things have changed. The article mentions that Kobbie Mainoo might leave in January after failing to impress the new manager. This is concerning news for several reasons. First, it shows that Amorim does not see Mainoo as part of his plans, at least not right now. Second, it means United might lose a talented young player who could be valuable in the future. If Mainoo does leave, that is one less option in midfield, which makes the need for a new signing even more urgent. United cannot afford to let players leave without bringing in replacements, especially in a position where they are already short of quality options. The case for prioritizing midfield. When you look at all these problems together, you can understand why INEOS and Ruben Amorim have decided to prioritize signing a midfielder in January. Let's be honest, the midfield situation at Manchester United is a mess. You have an aging player who cannot play full matches, a captain who is playing out of position, a new signing who has been disappointing, and a young player who might be leaving. United needs someone in midfield who can control games, protect the defense, and allow Bruno Fernandes to play in his best position. They need legs, energy, and quality in the middle of the park. Without a proper midfield, it does not matter how good your attackers are because they will not get the ball in dangerous positions often enough. From a tactical perspective, midfield is the engine room of any team. If you do not control midfield, you do not control games. You will struggle to create chances, you will be vulnerable to counterattacks, and you will find it hard to implement your manager's game plan. Amorim knows this, and that is why he wants to invest big money in bringing in a top-quality midfielder. So yes, prioritizing midfield does make sense when you look at the current situation. The problems in that area of the pitch are serious and urgent. But what about the wing problem? Here is the thing though. Just because midfield is a problem does not mean that the wing situation is not also a problem. Manchester United can have more than one problem at the same time, and both issues need to be addressed. The left wing remains a weakness. As we discussed earlier, United's left wing has been a major weakness all season. They do not have a natural left winger who can provide consistent threat and quality. Diogo Dalot is not the answer because he is a right back. Patrick Dorgu is too raw and inexperienced to be relied upon right now. This imbalance in attack makes United predictable. Opposition teams know that most of United's attacking threat comes from the right side where Amad Diallo plays. They can set up their defensive plans accordingly, putting extra attention on that side and leaving the left side relatively unguarded because they know United are not as dangerous there. If United had someone like Antoine Semenyo on the left wing, it would completely change the dynamic. Opposition teams would have to worry about threats from both sides. They could not just focus on stopping Amad because Semenyo would punish them on the other flank. This would create more space, more opportunities, and ultimately more goals for Manchester United. Can United afford to wait? One of the big questions here is whether Manchester United can afford to wait until the summer to address the wing problem. If they do not sign Semenyo or another winger in January, they will have to struggle through the rest of the season with the current options. Is that acceptable? Can United compete for top 4 with this imbalanced attack? Can they make progress in cup competitions without a proper left winger? These are important questions that INEOS and Amorim need to consider. Sometimes in football, you cannot just focus on one problem at a time. Sometimes you need to address multiple issues simultaneously, especially if you want to compete at the highest level. United might find that even if they sign a great midfielder in January, they will still struggle because the attack is so unbalanced. The risk of overthinking. There is also a danger that United might be overthinking this situation. Yes, midfield is a problem. But wing is also a problem. Why not try to solve both problems in the same transfer window? January is always a difficult time to do business, and clubs usually have limited budgets to work with. But Manchester United are one of the richest clubs in the world. If they really wanted to, they could probably afford to sign both a midfielder and a winger in January. It might cost more money, but it would address 2 major weaknesses in one go. The worry is that by focusing all their attention and resources on midfield, United might end up fixing one problem while leaving another problem unsolved. And if that happens, the team might not improve as much as everyone hopes. The financial details. Can United afford Semenyo? Let's talk about money, because transfer fees and financial considerations always play a big role in these decisions. How much would it cost Manchester United to sign Antoine Semenyo, and is it affordable? The release clause. According to the article, Antoine Semenyo has a release clause in his contract with Bournemouth. A release clause is a set amount of money that, if paid by another club, forces Bournemouth to let Semenyo leave. It takes away Bournemouth's negotiating power because they have to accept any offer that meets the release clause amount. Semenyo's release clause is £65 million. That is a significant amount of money, but it is not outrageous by modern football standards. Premier League clubs regularly spend that kind of money on players, especially when they believe that player will make a big difference to the team. The interesting part is that this £65 million release clause can be triggered in the early stages of January. This means that if Manchester United or any other club wants to sign Semenyo in the winter transfer window, they would need to pay £65 million to make it happen. There would be no negotiating with Bournemouth over the price. Pay £65 million and you get the player. The summer discount. Here is where things get interesting from a financial perspective. The article mentions that Semenyo's price will drop to £50 million in the summer. That is a £15 million difference compared to the January price. This creates a dilemma for Manchester United. Do they pay £65 million to get Semenyo in January, or do they wait until the summer and save £15 million? From a pure financial standpoint, waiting until summer makes sense. You get the same player for less money. That £15 million could be used to strengthen other areas of the squad or add to the budget for other transfers. But football is not just about finances. There are sporting considerations as well. If United wait until summer, they have to go through the rest of this season without a proper left winger. That could cost them in terms of league position, cup competitions, and possibly even qualification for European football. The financial loss from missing out on Champions League football, for example, would be far more than £15 million. There is also the risk that other clubs might come in for Semenyo during the summer. If multiple clubs are interested, there could be a bidding war that drives the price up anyway. Or Semenyo might choose to join a different club, leaving United without their target. So while the summer discount looks attractive, it is not necessarily the smart move if it means United struggle for the rest of the season. Can United afford it? The simple answer is yes. Manchester United can definitely afford £65 million for Antoine Semenyo. Despite all the talk about financial fair play and budget constraints, United are still one of the wealthiest clubs in world football. They generate huge revenues from commercial deals, matchday income, and broadcasting rights. The question is not whether United can afford it, but whether they want to spend that money on Semenyo when they have also identified midfield as a priority. If they sign a midfielder for, let's say, £70 or £80 million, can they also afford to spend another £65 million on Semenyo? That would be around £150 million in one transfer window, which is a lot even for United. This is probably the real issue. INEOS are trying to run Manchester United in a more financially sustainable way. They do not want to spend money recklessly like the club has done in the past. They want each transfer to be carefully considered and to represent good value for money. So the decision to prioritize midfield over the wing might come down to budget allocation. United have a certain amount of money to spend in January, and they have decided to use most of that money on a midfielder rather than splitting it between a midfielder and a winger. The competition risk. What if other clubs move for Semenyo? Here is where things could get really problematic for Manchester United. While they are busy focusing on midfield targets, other big clubs could swoop in and sign Antoine Semenyo. And according to the article, that is a very real possibility. Manchester City's interest. The article mentions that Manchester City could be interested in Antoine Semenyo. This should set off alarm bells at Old Trafford because City are direct rivals and they also need attacking reinforcements. Manchester City have been struggling this season by their usual standards. They have suffered several defeats and their attack has not been as potent as in previous years. Pep Guardiola knows that his team needs fresh legs and new ideas in the forward areas. If City decide that Semenyo is the right player for them, they have several advantages over United. First, they can offer Champions League football, which United might not be able to guarantee. Second, they have Pep Guardiola, one of the best managers in the world, which makes them attractive to any player. Third, they have shown they are willing to spend big money when they identify the right target. Imagine if Manchester United pass on Semenyo, focus on signing a midfielder, and then watch as Semenyo joins Manchester City instead. That would be painful for United fans. It would mean a direct rival has strengthened while United still have an unbalanced attack. Even worse, United would have to face Semenyo when they play against City, knowing that he could have been playing for them instead. Liverpool's threat. Liverpool are also mentioned as potential suitors for Antoine Semenyo. Like Manchester City, Liverpool could be a very attractive option for the Ghanaian winger. Liverpool are currently in a strong position in the league and are playing excellent football under their manager. They can offer Champions League football, a great team environment, and the chance to compete for major trophies. For a player like Semenyo who wants to take the next step in his career, Liverpool would be a great choice. Liverpool also have a history of signing players from smaller Premier League clubs and turning them into stars. Think about players like Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, and Luis Diaz. They all came from clubs where they were very good, and Liverpool took them to the next level. Semenyo might look at those examples and think that Liverpool would be the perfect place for him to develop. If Liverpool make a move for Semenyo, United would be in trouble. Not only would they lose out on their target, but they would also be strengthening a team that is currently ahead of them in the table and looking like genuine title contenders. The danger of hesitation. In the transfer market, hesitation can be deadly. When you identify a player you want, you need to move quickly and decisively. If you wait too long or get distracted by other targets, someone else will come in and take that player away from you. This is the situation Manchester United find themselves in with Antoine Semenyo. They have identified him as a player who would improve their team. Their manager wanted to sign him even before he joined United. The player fits the profile of what they need. But instead of moving quickly to secure the transfer, they have decided to focus on midfield first. This delay could prove costly. Every day that United are not in active talks with Bournemouth is a day when Manchester City, Liverpool, or another club could be making progress on a deal. By the time United turn their attention back to Semenyo, it might be too late. He might already be wearing a different shirt. The article says that United cannot afford to lose the race for Semenyo, and that is absolutely correct. Missing out on him would be a crushing blow, especially if he ends up at a rival club and performs well against United. The Amorim connection. Why this makes the situation more frustrating. One of the most frustrating aspects of this whole situation is the connection between Ruben Amorim and Antoine Semenyo. As we mentioned earlier, Amorim tried to sign Semenyo when he was at Sporting CP. He clearly rates the player highly and believes he would be perfect for his system. When your manager identifies his target. In an ideal world, when a new manager comes to a club and identifies specific players he wants to sign, the club should back him and do everything possible to get those players. This is especially true in the first transfer window after the manager arrives, because that is when he needs to start building the squad in his image. Amorim has told United that he wants Antoine Semenyo. He has worked on this target before. He knows exactly what Semenyo can bring to the team and how he would fit into the tactical system. When a manager is that clear about wanting a player, it is usually a good idea to listen to him and support his request. But according to Fabrizio Romano, despite Amorim's clear interest in Semenyo, United are prioritizing other positions instead. This raises questions about whether the club is really backing their new manager or whether they are overruling his wishes based on their own assessment of what the team needs. The risk of undermining the manager. There is a delicate balance that needs to be maintained between a manager's wishes and the club's overall transfer strategy. On one hand, you want to back your manager and give him the players he wants. On the other hand, you also need to make sure that the club is making smart decisions that consider factors beyond just what the manager wants in the short term. But if you consistently ignore what your manager is asking for, you run the risk of undermining him. He might feel that the club does not support him or trust his judgment. This can create tension and problems down the line. In this case, Amorim wants Semenyo. He has probably explained to the club why he needs this player and how Semenyo would improve the team. But instead of backing him, United are saying that they know better and that midfield is more important than the wing right now. Maybe they are right. Maybe midfield is indeed more urgent. But there is a risk that this decision could frustrate Amorim and make him feel like he is not getting the support he needs to be successful at Manchester United. What happens if things go wrong? Here is a scenario to consider. Let's say Manchester United sign a midfielder in January but do not bring in a winger. The midfield improves a bit, but the left wing remains a major problem. United continue to struggle in attack because they are so one-dimensional. They finish the season in 6th or 7th place, outside the Champions League qualification spots. Meanwhile, Antoine Semenyo has joined Liverpool or Manchester City. He is performing brilliantly for them, scoring goals and creating chances. When United play against his new team, Semenyo has a great game and helps his side beat United. In that scenario, fans and media would be asking serious questions. Why did United not sign Semenyo when their manager wanted him? Why did they prioritize midfield when the wing was clearly also a big problem? Why did they let a rival club sign a player who could have improved United? These are the kind of questions that can create real problems for a club's leadership. INEOS are still relatively new to running football operations at Manchester United. They are trying to prove that they can make better decisions than the previous regime. If they get this one wrong, it will reflect badly on them and raise doubts about whether they really know what they are doing. Could United sign both a midfielder and a winger? Let's explore an alternative scenario. What if instead of choosing between midfield and wing, Manchester United decided to address both problems in January? The double deal strategy. In theory, there is nothing stopping United from signing two players in the January transfer window. Yes, January is usually a quiet month for transfers, and yes, it is harder to do business in the winter. But if United are serious about getting back to the top, they might need to be bold and ambitious. Here is how it could work. United identify their top midfield target, let's say that costs around £70 million. They also pursue Antoine Semenyo for £65 million. That is a total of £135 million, plus wages and agent fees. It is a lot of money, but for a club of United's size, it is doable. The benefits of this approach would be huge. United would fix two major problems in one transfer window. They would have a stronger midfield and a balanced attack. They would send a message to rivals that they are serious about competing. And they would give Ruben Amorim the best possible chance of being successful. The financial considerations. Of course, spending £135 million or more in one transfer window is a big commitment. INEOS would need to be convinced that this is the right approach. They would need to look at the finances carefully and make sure that such spending fits within the club's budget and complies with financial fair play regulations. But here is the thing, Manchester United have spent poorly in the past. They have wasted hundreds of millions of pounds on players who did not work out. Players like Antony, Casemiro, Harry Maguire, and others cost huge amounts of money and did not deliver value for that investment. If INEOS can be smarter with their spending and actually sign players who improve the team, then spending £135 million on two good players is better than spending £80 million on one player who flops. It is all about getting value and making smart decisions. Why this might not happen? Despite the logic of signing both a midfielder and a winger, there are reasons why this might not happen. First, as we have discussed, INEOS seem to want to run United in a more financially sustainable way. They might not be comfortable spending that much money in one window. Second, there is the question of whether the right players are available. United might have identified the perfect midfielder, but if that player's club does not want to sell in January, the deal might not be possible. Similarly with Semenyo, Bournemouth might not want to lose their best player mid-season even if someone pays the release clause. Third, there are practical considerations around integrating new players. Bringing in 2 new starters in January and expecting them to hit the ground running is not easy. It takes time for players to adapt to a new club, new teammates, and new tactical systems. Some managers prefer to focus on one key signing rather than multiple signings for this reason. So while the double deal strategy makes sense in theory, there are practical obstacles that might prevent it from happening. What should United do? The verdict. We have looked at this situation from every angle. We have examined United's midfield problems, their wing problems, the financial considerations, the competition from rival clubs, and Ruben Amorim's wishes. Now let's try to come to a conclusion about what Manchester United should actually do. The ideal scenario. In an ideal world, Manchester United would sign both a top-quality midfielder and Antoine Semenyo in January. This would address 2 major weaknesses at once and give Amorim the best possible chance of turning things around this season. It would require a significant financial investment, but United can afford it if they choose to prioritize success on the pitch. The realistic scenario. Realistically, based on what Fabrizio Romano has said, United are going to focus on midfield in January and leave the wing position for another time. They will probably sign 1 midfielder, see how things go for the rest of the season, and then reassess in the summer. This approach has some logic to it. Fix the most urgent problem first, then deal with other issues later. And if they can save £15 million by waiting until summer to sign Semenyo, that might seem like good business. The risk. The risk with the realistic scenario is that United might end up regretting this decision. If they struggle to qualify for Champions League because their attack is too one-dimensional, they will wish they had invested in a winger as well as a midfielder. If Semenyo joins a rival and performs well against United, the regret will be even stronger. There is also the point about backing your manager. Amorim wants Semenyo. He has made that clear. When you hire a manager and then do not give him the players he specifically asks for, you are setting him up for potential failure. If things go wrong, he will rightly point out that he did not get the backing he needed. What United should actually do? If you ask me, and I know many United fans would agree, the best approach would be to at least try to sign both a midfielder and Semenyo in January. Even if that means spending more money than originally planned, it would be worth it to address both major weaknesses. If financial constraints make that impossible, then United should at least keep Semenyo as a backup option. If the midfield signing gets done early in January, they should immediately turn their attention to Semenyo and try to get that deal done as well before the window closes. What they should not do is completely ignore the wing position just because they have decided midfield is a bigger priority. Football does not work that way. You cannot just fix one problem and expect everything else to fall into place. United need to be more ambitious than that. What this means for the rest of the season. Let's think about what this transfer situation means for Manchester United's prospects for the rest of the season. If United only sign a midfielder. If United follow through on their current plan and only sign a midfielder in January, what happens? Well, the midfield hopefully gets better. Let's say they. This response paused because Claude reached its max length for a message. Hit continue to nudge Claude along, continue.